What's up, YouTube? I'm KFD. Today, we are at a unique intersection of a couple passions of mine, sitting here on top of the Rancho Cerro Lookout in the city of Glendale. This weird thingamajig you're looking at is a seminal vestige from Los Angeles' Cold War civil defense era. Now, those of you that remember growing up doing the duck and cover drills, I think I was probably among the last of that group to learn about that in grade school. I probably remember hearing these things go off once every month or so, like every third Friday or last Friday. Anyway, what we're looking at is an early to mid-50s Chrysler Bell Siren. This is actually called what's known as the Victory Siren. This is the second iteration of this siren. The siren itself, which is this big thing right here, this big trumpet-looking deal, that was engineered by Bell Telephone back in the late 40s, and is for civil defense. I mean, because you got to remember at this time, this is when the Cold War was starting to heat up. Now, the original Victory sirens used Chrysler's flathead six-cylinder engine. Now, in 1952, with the advent of Chrysler's new Hemi engine, these things utilized Hemi power. Now, like I say, I'm a big Chrysler nut, so this thing has really piqued my interest. Most of these were painted red. As you can see, this one is green, has been green. Reason being is the city of Los Angeles, all of their equipment they use were always painted this uniform green color. You can't really see, but right along there it says Chrysler. And of course, like I say, the big question now, especially the siren guys, is whether or not this engine has spark plugs in it. Well, actually, before I get too carried away, I'll explain to you a little bit about that engine. Nowadays, Hemi is becoming once again a household term. Even non-car people know the Hemi because of the new Hemi engine that Chrysler reintroduced, I'd say 2004. It's actually a take on the Hemi, it itself being closer to the polyhead engine family, but that's another story for another day. This is actually the industrial version of the Chrysler 331 cubic inch engine. The Chrysler industrial units are a little bit different than the car units. They actually had increased coolant passages in the block. If this is an early motor, it would have a cast-in bell housing with it, which is usually how the transmission, in this case the fluid, that coupler right there. Usually the bell housing's cast into the block. The other difference too is with these engines, as you can see, there's an exhaust pipe sticking out, going towards what would normally be the front of the engine. On the early Hemis, even on the Chrysler Poly Series motors, which is what I had in my 58 Dodge, the heads are interchangeable. You can put a left head on the right head, so on and so forth, and the same with these motors. That's how come you can just turn them around and have the pipe sticking straight out of the top or out of the front of it like that. Again, the other thing too is we can't see if the spark plugs are in it. A lot of non-car guys, oh no, the spark plug's not in it. This is true. You can't see the spark plug. You can't see the spark plugs in there because they're actually recessed down to the valve cover. The other thing too is I don't know if you can really see here in my video or not, but there's actually a little pipe kind of shooting off an angle. Actually, that's it right there. That's your oil breather tube. Now, like I say, with the rainwater, obviously the caps, the flapper caps are missing off the exhaust. So there is really no telling what shape this engine is in. I'm trying to contact someone to get up there because I really want to see this thing. And like I say, I've got a knee I had surgery on a knee 3 weeks ago, so I'm not about to attempt this, especially being in uniform and whatnot. But anyway, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. If you're Googling this up, you've probably Googled up, I think it's SoCal Big Mike's video. I'm sure you've probably seen the siren boards, everything like that. These things had a range of about 4 to 5 miles. Now, supposedly on I think SoCal Mike was saying on the downward whale, you could hear this thing out of Catalina. So I'll give you a good idea of where you're looking. These two radio towers right here, in between that's downtown Los Angeles. That mountain right there, in the background is Palos Verdes. Hermosa Beach is right there, that's where I'm from. And Catalina Island is probably, as a crow flies, good 35-40 miles out that way. Now it's very probable. The Queen Mary had steam whistles. Now they weren't the 138 decibel screamer this thing was, but the reverberations from the lower tone on that ship can be heard, for a good 100 miles or so. So it's very plausible that on the downward whale of this screamer, it can very well be heard. The other thing too about this also says American Blower up there. I googled the company. It's still around. In fact, they were doing stuff with Chrysler for a long time. So apparently, I guess the Bell Telephone Company engineered this. Doc Brown put a couple of these on the back of his DeLorean, and they were doing stuff with Chrysler long before that with their fluid drive, automatic transmission configuration, stuff like that. So if you look in the inside of it, or you can't really look in the inside, but there's actually a giant rotor, almost like a turbine. And what would happen is the guy would, that would actually turn, and then you would see that you would hear the air would go through these horns, and it would make the noise. So basically, the series of events, what would happen is, say, you've got some Air Force cat here, let's say it's 1957. Khrushchev is over there thumbing his nose at Eisenhower, and he says, you know what? I just want to blow stuff up. So an ICBM will fly from Moscow or from, you name it, some place where Borat's mother came from. And what would happen is, the Air Force cat that's sitting there in front of a radar, Vandenberg or even Lemoore, would say, holy crap, there's an ICBM coming. Now, let's see, Oat Mountain is out that way. There's a missile silo. LA 78, LA 96 is out that way, and of course there's a few more of these Nike missile emplacements. And what would happen is they would fire off a Nike missile, and it would blow this ICBM out of the sky, in theory. The other thing too is, if anyone's been up here, it's kind of a hike to get up here. I mean, you've got houses, but still, even for me hobbling up here, it kind of hurts. So what they actually had is, someone was saying this is possibly a battery charger type deal. It could be, but if you look right here, you also got a power pole. What I'm really guessing is, because what I was reading is, these things are telephone operated. So some guy would use that telephone, would dial up, Frontier 7622 or something like that, and it would activate this thing. This thing would start up, and then it would also rotate, because I can't really tell in the video. I guess you kind of can. It's actually not perfectly perpendicular to the platform. And I was noticing this the other day when I first read about this and came up here, is you can see an entire gear drive system, and right above my fingers right there, I thought that looked strangely like a power steering pump on my old Dodge. And you can't really tell in the video either. There's a massive chain drive up there. There's a belt. There's an accessory belt that actually looks like it's driven off the flywheel. And so it would turn. So that way you could be heard at all angles. Now also, like say this was, the C channel is the same type of channel that the actual sled itself sat on. The C channel is the same that Dodge used in their trucks. I recognize that. I had a 55 Dodge truck, and it had the same sort of stuff in there. So anyway, until next time, YouTube, I'm going to try and see if I can find a way in there.